You open your retirement calculator at 11 p.m. You type in your age, your savings, your monthly contribution, and the number that pops up on the screen doesn't feel like a plan. It feels like a verdict. Maybe it says you're behind. Maybe it says you're on track. But something in your gut doesn't believe it. Here's the thing. Nobody tells you when you run that calculator. It's probably wrong. Not because the math is bad, because it's using the wrong map. The amount you need to retire comfortably isn't one number. It's 50 different numbers, one for every state in this country. And the gap between the cheapest and the most expensive isn't small. It's over $1 million, which means the real question isn't how much do I need to retire? It's how much do I need to retire where I actually plan to live? And here's what I eventually figured out. I'm not a financial advisor. I don't wear a suit. I don't manage anyone's money. And for a long time, I was the guy avoiding his own retirement account statements because I was scared of what I'd see. What changed things for me wasn't a windfall or a magic stock pick. It was realizing I'd been comparing myself to a national average that didn't apply to my actual life. I live somewhere specific. I'll retire somewhere specific. And once I started running the numbers for my state instead of some blended US average, everything got clearer. And honestly, a little less scary. So that's what we're doing today. We're going state by state. We're going to meet two people who look almost identical on paper, and we're going to watch their retirements turn out completely different. Not because one of them was smarter, but because of one decision most people never think twice about. Meet Dave and Linda. Both are 45. Both make $70,000 a year. Both have been putting 8% of their paycheck into a 401k since their early 30s. On paper, they're the same person. Dave lives in Ohio. Linda lives in Hawaii. They've never met. They never will. But 20 years from now, one of them is going to retire feeling like they won, and the other is going to feel like the ground shifted under them. And it has nothing to do with how hard either of them worked. Think of retirement savings like packing for a road trip. If you're driving across flat, straight highway, you don't need much gas. If you're climbing through mountains, you need a full tank, a spare, and probably a second spare. Most retirement advice hands you one number. You need $1 million. As if every road is the same road. It isn't. According to a 2026 GOBankingRates analysis built on Bureau of Labor Statistics spending data, the amount a retiree needs to cover 25 years of basic living expenses ranges from about $735,000 in Oklahoma to roughly $2 million in Hawaii. That's a gap of nearly $5 million for the exact same lifestyle, just a different zip code. Let that sink in. Same groceries, same doctor visits, same electric bill categories, wildly different price tags, just because of where the mailbox sits. So what's actually driving that gap? 3 things, mostly. Housing, healthcare, and state taxes. Housing is the biggest one. In high-cost states, even a paid-off house comes with property taxes and insurance that eat into a fixed income fast. Healthcare costs vary too. Medicare helps everywhere, but supplemental coverage and out-of-pocket costs shift a lot by region. And then there's Social Security taxation. Most states don't touch your Social Security check at all. But as of early 2026, a handful of states, including Colorado, Connecticut, Minnesota, Montana, New Mexico, Rhode Island, Utah, and Vermont, still tax at least a portion of it, depending on income. West Virginia only just finished phasing its tax out. This is why Dave in Ohio doesn't need anywhere near what Linda needs in Hawaii. It's not that Ohio is less than, it's that the terrain is flatter. And this isn't just a Hawaii versus everywhere else story. The 2026 data shows a clear cluster of expensive terrain. Hawaii, California, Massachusetts, Washington, New Jersey, and Colorado all require more than $115,000 a year for a comfortable retirement. High housing costs and utility bills are doing most of that damage. On the other end, states like Alabama, Arkansas, and West Virginia consistently come up as the best value for retirees. Lower housing costs, lower overall cost of living index scores, and in West Virginia's case, a Social Security tax that's now fully phased out as of 2026. So before you panic about the number, it's worth asking a more useful question first. Which cluster is your terrain actually in? Let's put real numbers on this. The 2026 data pegs Hawaii's annual comfortable cost of living at over $181,000 a year, once you account for housing, food, healthcare, and taxes. Even with Social Security helping cover part of that, Linda would need to be saving somewhere around $5,800 a month, starting from her 20s, to hit a comfortable retirement number there. Dave, meanwhile, lives in a state where the annual comfortable cost of living lands closer to a third of that. His monthly savings target isn't small. Nobody's is. But it's a fraction of what Linda is up against. For the same lifestyle, the same habits, the same discipline. Neither of them did anything wrong. They just chose different roads. Here's what makes this even more interesting. Dave and Linda are both counting on the same average monthly Social Security check most retired workers receive in 2026, about $2,075 a month, or roughly $24,894 a year. For Dave, that check covers a real chunk of his annual expenses. For Linda, in a state where the comfortable cost of living runs past $181,000 a year, that same check barely dents the total. Same government benefit. Two completely different levels of relief. That's the terrain talking again, not the system failing either one of them. Let's actually walk the math, because numbers without a timeline don't mean much. Age 30, contributing, 500 a month, 7% average growth, pi by 65, roughly 760,000. Read that again. $1,000 a month, started at 30, left alone to compound, turns into $750,000 by retirement age. That's not luck. That's time doing the heavy lifting. Age 45. Contributing 500 month 4, same 7% growth. By 65, roughly 245,000, same monthly amount, same rate of return. 1/3 the result, because 15 years of compounding got left on the table. This is the part people don't want to hear, but it's the part that actually matters. The state you retire in changes how much you need. The age you start changes whether you get there at all. Think about that for a moment. Fidelity's general benchmark is to have around 10 times your salary saved by 67 for a comfortable retirement. If you're making 70,000, that's roughly 700,000 before you even adjust for where you live. Add Hawaii's cost of living on top of that benchmark and the target moves considerably higher. Adjust for Oklahoma or West Virginia and it moves the other way. Here's what nobody talks about. Most people don't choose where they'll retire based on a spreadsheet. They choose it because it's where they already live, where their kids are, where they've always pictured themselves ending up. And that's fine. Nobody's saying uproot your life for a lower cost of living index. But if you're going to stay in a high cost state, you need to know that going in, not discover it at 63 when the retirement calculator finally gets your attention. The uncomfortable truth is this: the national average number you've probably seen, $1 million, $2 million, whatever headline you scroll past, might be completely irrelevant to your actual situation. You could be oversaving and missing out on life now, or undersaving and heading for a shock later. Either way, you're planning against the wrong map. But how do you actually survive this phase, the part where you realize your number might be bigger or smaller than you thought? I think the honest answer is you stop trying to hit a perfect number and start hitting a direction. First, look up your specific state's cost of living index and Social Security tax treatment. 15 minutes of research replaces months of vague anxiety. Second, separate needs from wants math. The scary 6-figure headline numbers usually include a comfortable lifestyle, not a bare bones one. Knowing your actual floor, not the comfortable ceiling, takes a lot of pressure off. Third, remember that relocation is a lever, not a failure. Retirees moving from high-tax, high-cost states to places like Tennessee, Texas, or Florida aren't settling. Many are making a calculated trade, lower costs and no state income tax, in exchange for a shorter list of zip codes. You're not behind because your number is bigger than someone else's. You might just be climbing a steeper hill. Fourth, don't let the healthcare piece sneak up on you. Medicare covers a lot starting at 65, but it doesn't cover everything. Premiums, supplemental plans, and out-of-pocket costs still vary by region and by the coverage choices you make. Building even a rough healthcare line item into your retirement number, separate from your general living expenses, takes another layer of guesswork out of the picture. And fifth, this one's less about math and more about mindset. Give yourself permission to revisit the plan. The state you picture retiring in at 40 isn't necessarily the state you'll want at 60. Kids move, priorities shift, winters get harder to shovel through. Treat your retirement location like a working draft, not a life sentence, and the whole planning process gets a lot less heavy. Your biggest asset isn't your salary. It's the number of years compounding still has to work on your money. One action step, increase your 401k contribution by just 1% this month. One mindset shift, your state's cost of living today isn't necessarily your state of retirement tomorrow. You have time to let both the math and the location decision evolve. You still have a real runway. 10 to 15 years is enough time to meaningfully move the needle, especially with catch-up contributions. In 2026, savers 50 and older can add an extra $8,000 to a 401k beyond the base limit, or $11,250 if you're 60 to 63. One action step, max out that catch-up contribution if you can. One mindset shift, start researching your target retirement state now, not the year you retire. Cost of living decisions take time to plan around. You don't need a perfect number. You need an honest one. One action step, run your specific state's numbers, not a national headline, and talk to a fee-only advisor about a realistic withdrawal plan using Social Security and whatever savings you do have. One mindset shift, starting late, doesn't erase the years you do have left to save and adjust. It just means every decision from here carries a little more weight. At the end of the day, retirement was never really about hitting one magic number. It's about matching your savings to your terrain, knowing whether you're driving flat highway or climbing a mountain, and packing accordingly. Dave and Linda aren't in a competition. They're just on different roads, going toward the same destination, a life where money stops being the thing that decides everything else. Wherever your road runs, the goal is the same. Know the terrain, pack accordingly, and give yourself enough time on the highway before you need to arrive. If this helped you see your own numbers a little more clearly, the next video breaks down exactly how to check your state's specific cost of living index and Social Security tax rules in under 10 minutes. Hit subscribe if you want to keep mapping this out together.